Hi, good day. My name is Anneme. I am the proud owner of a company called True Awakenings, where I specialize with individual coaching, business coaching, and certification training. My intention of the business and of the series that I'm going to introduce you to over the next couple of weeks and months is personal freedom. And what does that actually mean to us as individuals? What does it show up like in your world and in your business and in every area of your life? So I'm specializing in training of different modalities, but the most important one being something called NLP. Now, I know it sounds like a mouthful. I know when I heard it the first time, it sounded like a bit of a swear word, but it really means neuro-linguistic programming, which is the psychology of thinking and how do we consistently produce excellent results through our behavior. So what is the thoughts that drives the emotions that drives the actions? So I want to talk about how emotions are affecting our behavior and how we can manage those emotions in a different way so that it makes the behavior that we're looking for quite easy. And the same thing about how the thoughts that we think affects the emotions. So I've got with me in the studio here today a special lady by the name of Nomfundo. Welcome, Nomfundo.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining me.
It's a pleasure.
We're just going to have a comfortable couch conversation with your experience of my work. We've met each other some years back now.
Yep.
And how this has impacted in your life, how you experienced this. Yeah. What does this mean to you in your world on a personal level and also in your business, right?
Right.
And how you? I remember a conversation we had before about how the world is really struggling with a lot of anxiety right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Considering the fact that I struggle with a lot of anxiety, NLP has really helped me to kind of downsize for myself, kind of chunk it down from being such a big thing in my life, something that I can't handle, just realizing that it's actually, if I just narrow myself down and figure out exactly what the problem is, it becomes an easier situation to handle.
Becomes more manageable, right?
Much more manageable. NLP kind of assists you as a person, for me per se, when it comes to anxiety. So many things are happening in our daily life that it's very important we know who we are while we are going through this rigmarole of life that we are in right now. And once you figure that out, it becomes such an easier process to actually figure out what's happening in your life. Plus that you know who you are, it becomes such an easy road. Not easy, but it becomes a bit an easier road to actually navigate.
So let me ask you this. When you think of those experiences where you've experienced anxiety before,
right,
were you conscious about the things that made you feel anxious?
No.
Right? You just wake up and you have this emotion, right?
No. You literally wake up and all you can think about is the fact that your body's vibrating, your mind is going crazy, everything is going haywire, you know? So I never thought about it, to answer your question.
So here's the thing. Did you know that there's between 50 and 80,000 thoughts running through your mind every single day?
Well, through my NLP, yes, through my NLP training, now I know.
So that's really what's happening at an unconscious level. We've got so much that is processing that we're not conscious of. And that's what's impacting these emotions. And,
right,
and the way that we get awareness of it is what we feel, right? So I like to think of fear as like a little Jack Russell. This is my analogy for it.
Yes.
Is something happens, let's say someone rings the doorbell, the little Jack Russell goes absolutely haywire, starts barking, runs to the door.
Yeah.
It's like an alarm going off, telling you, watch out, something's happening, something's changing, someone is coming into our space, and it's really up to us to look at this and say, well, am I in danger? Number one.
I think that's
like saying to the little Jack Russell,
yes,
it's okay, it's okay. It's just Nomfundo coming to visit. It's not necessary for you to go into a frenzy, right? But we don't have the mindfulness necessarily every single time to go, what's actually going on here, right? So I like what you described with breaking it down into smaller pieces, because that brings me to the example of the feeling of feeling overwhelmed, right? So normally anxiousness is a result of already feeling overwhelmed. And we experience it and become aware of it as I'm feeling anxious.
Yes.
But in actual fact, sometimes it's actually just you're overwhelmed, right? And you mentioned it's like there's so much to do. And if I narrow it down, it becomes easier to do.
And it's a conscious effort every single day. catching yourself when it happens, having the tools in your toolbox to go, okay, fine, this is what's happening right now. Let me catch myself. How do I move from the situation I'm in right now to a more resourceful state where I'm actually able to do the things I need to do without feeling this overwhelm or feeling this anxiety, you know, and we all know fear, anxiety is the fear of the future. So if you knew what you could do right now for your future to be amazing, narrowing it down, realizing what it is, it becomes such an easier, I keep on using easier, process for you to actually kind of channel. So I think when it comes to understanding the mind and understanding that there's so many bits of information happening on a daily basis, and we've got so much coming from the outside, narrowing it down, bringing it back home, and understanding yourself as a human being, understanding what you're actually experiencing right now, and going forward, it becomes such a great experience for everybody around you, because you're not just living for yourself, you're living for yourself, but you are interacting with so many people. So if you as a person can be in a resourceful state, it becomes easier for everybody else around you to be in a resourceful state, meaning that everybody can just live a better life.
100%.
You know?
And if you think of behaviors, when you're in an anxious state, or feeling overwhelmed,
Right.
what's the behavior that comes with that, right? So whatever the action is that we need to do to get to the stuff that we want to get, like whatever the goal is that I want to achieve, whatever the outcome is that I want to arrive at,
Right.
would the behavior that goes with anxiety get me there, right? So it's so subtle and it's so unconscious. That subtle little thought that runs through your mind that goes, and your brain is in fight and flight, and it's now nervous, and it's like looking, oh, what's happening from here? What should I? But it puts you in this slight little apprehensive state, and it affects your entire physiology, because the body and mind is one, and it affects the entire physiology. And then we start behaving in ways. Little example: have you ever had one of those days where you trip over the cat or the dog, and then you end up spilling your coffee on yourself, and you walk out the house going, oh, it's going to be one of those days.
Yes.
Right? Because something has happened. You already made the decision that it's going to have this impact on the rest of your day, and then it just multiplies on other little tiny behaviors. Now you can't find your keys, and then you're late to get the car, and you're stuck in traffic, and it just compounds.
You're right.
Because that thought so quickly affected how you felt and then how you behaved. If you could in that moment just say, oh my gosh, how clumsy was that moment, I'm choosing to have a great day. It's the mindfulness of the thought that causes you to feel different, right? So, and that feeling of feeling different, whatever that is what's most aligned with the type of day that I want to have, right? The type of behavior that would be most suited for that, right?
Yes.
So I think that's what's very useful in today's times. Is life perfect? Do you have any, has all your problems disappeared?
No. No.
The question is, do you have some tools and how to think about them differently?
That I have an array of tools now, and I'm going to make an example of my own. Recently, when I finished the training, understanding that my life right now has to change was something that I knew when I did the training, when I went into the training. But the impact that the daily activities or the things that we are learning on a daily basis, the tools that are literally coming into your little toolbox, you know, I have a picture of a little pink toolbox that I just keep putting all my tools inside. Realizing that I got to change, I have to change, but having the tools to change has absolutely changed every single minute of my life. Everything I do now is intentional. Everything that happens on my day is intentional. Every conversation I have is intentional. Before something comes out of my mouth, it's thought out. Okay, but is this useful? Is it not useful? How is it going to help me get to my next phase? Because every conversation shouldn't just be just a conversation. It should be a beautiful experience or an exchange between two people. And that's one thing that I have to say, that it's really changed my internal state, changed how I think of myself, how I think of other people, realizing that if I want the change I want to see in the world, in my own world, I have to really deep inside of me and pull out those parts of me with these tools, a little screwdriver, like a swish screwdriver coming out, and you know, all of these tools that I have to get to where I need to get. So the idea of change before you do the training, and the concepts of change while you're doing the training, when you get out on the other side and you're implementing, it feels so liberating because for the very first time, you realize that it's all in my hands. Everybody tells you that, you know, but nobody gives you the tools to actually realize and actualize that it's really in your hands. You know what I mean? The screwdriver's in your hand, everything is in your hands. And so I think that's the biggest thing that I have learned through NLP is that the change, it helps you implement the change that you want. One of the biggest things that you kept saying to us even during the training was, none of this is useful if you don't take the action, you know, and having the intent while you're taking the action is even more important.
Stay tuned for our next episode where we dig in a little bit deeper in our conversation with Nomfundo in the studio with us.